Today, we'll explore one of the most tragic and complex stories in the Star Wars universe, the betrayal of Anakin Skywalker. From his childhood as a slave on Tatooine to his transformation into Darth Vader, every decision he made led him down a dark path, filled with inner conflict and moral dilemmas. But what really led to his downfall? And is there still room for redemption? Get ready for an emotional journey that will uncover the secrets behind Anakin's betrayal and the legacy he left for the galaxy. Stay with us until the end to discover how love, fear, and power intertwine in the story of one of the greatest villains of all time. 1. Anakin's childhood. Anakin Skywalker was born into slavery on Tatooine, a barren and desolate planet. From a young age, he demonstrated exceptional abilities with the Force, which caught the attention of Qui-Gon Jinn. Anakin's harsh life shaped him, creating a deep desire for freedom and a need to prove himself. His lonely childhood and the hardships he faced contributed to an intense and anxious personality, seeking love and recognition. Anakin's move to Coruscant to become a Padawan under Obi-Wan Kenobi brought new hope, but also new pressures. He found himself in an environment where expectations were high, and the life of a Jedi was full of duty and sacrifice. This transition from life as a slave to a Jedi in training shaped his perception of success and failure, laying the groundwork for the inner conflicts that would later lead to his betrayal. 2. The Chosen One Prophecy. The Chosen One prophecy, which said that Anakin would bring balance to the Force, was both a blessing and a curse. From the beginning, Anakin was placed on a pedestal, with everyone expecting him to be the savior of the galaxy. This intense pressure to live up to lofty expectations contributed to his inner struggle, as Anakin felt he had to be perfect to justify his title as the Chosen One. This pressure, combined with his desire to be loved and accepted, created an emotional storm. As the plot unfolded, the prophecy became a double-edged sword. As Anakin struggled to understand his role, he also became increasingly vulnerable to the manipulations of Palpatine, who preyed on Anakin's insecurities. The search for acceptance and the weight of expectations culminated in a moral dilemma that would lead Anakin to make disastrous choices. 3. Relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi. The relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi was complex, marked by camaraderie and rivalry. Obi-Wan, as a mentor, provided Anakin with a sense of stability and guidance. However, the difference in their personalities, Obi-Wan being more level-headed and Anakin more impulsive, created conflict. Anakin often felt he needed to outdo his master, leading to a rivalry that grew increasingly bitter. As the war intensified, the pressure on Anakin grew. Obi-Wan tried to guide Anakin, but his lack of understanding of the young Jedi's fears and insecurities often led to frustration. Their friendship began to deteriorate, contributing to Anakin's isolation and vulnerability to the lures of the dark side. This dynamic would become a crucial part of the story, culminating in a devastating confrontation. 4. Fear of loss. The fear of losing those he loved, especially Padme Amidala, became a major motivator for his actions. Anakin had disturbing visions of Padme dying, which exacerbated his fear that he would not be able to protect her. This concern grew in intensity, driving him to seek ever more power, believing that this was the only way to prevent tragedy. His desire for control alienated him from the Jedi wisdom, where detachment was essential. This fear turned to desperation and eventually to drastic action. Anakin began to explore the dark side of the Force in the hope of finding a way to save Padme. This transition was painful, as he found himself increasingly alienated from the values he once championed as a Jedi. The struggle between love and fear began to consume his life, setting the stage for his betrayal. 5. Palpatine's influence. Palpatine, disguised as a simple senator, became a pivotal figure in Anakin's life. With an uncanny ability to manipulate, he became a dark mentor who fed on Anakin's fears and insecurities. By presenting himself as someone who understood his struggles, Palpatine quickly earned the young Jedi's trust. This relationship was strategic, allowing Palpatine to seduce Anakin to the dark side with promises of power and control. Palpatine's influence intensified as Anakin became increasingly isolated from the Jedi. He offered Anakin what seemed like a path to Padme's salvation, manipulating his emotions and presenting the dark side as a solution. This transition from friend and mentor to manipulator had devastating consequences, culminating in Anakin's complete betrayal of the Jedi Order and acceptance of his new role as Darth Vader. 6. The Fall on Mustafar. The battle on Mustafar was the climax of Anakin's betrayal, symbolizing his complete transformation into Darth Vader. The confrontation with Obi-Wan was emotionally charged, reflecting not only a physical struggle, but also an internal battle between love and hate. Anakin, now consumed by the dark side, fought not only against his former master, but against the parts of himself that still yearned for redemption. The environment of Mustafar, with its lava flows and desolate landscapes, mirrored Anakin's inner turmoil. When Obi-Wan, filled with grief and sadness, declared that Anakin had become the enemy, it was a moment of rupture. Anakin's defeat on Mustafar was not just physical. It was a complete loss of his identity and his humanity, sealing his fate as one of history's most iconic villains. 7. The Dark Side of the Force. Anakin's quest for power in the dark side of the Force led him away from the Jedi principles he once espoused. Initially drawn to its promises of strength and control, he began to explore the mysteries of the Force in ways the Jedi considered dangerous. This exploration was not just a quest for power. It was also an attempt to understand and overcome his deepest fears, especially the fear of losing Padme. The dark side offered Anakin an illusion of safety, but it also corrupted him in profound ways. He became increasingly dependent on the promises of Palpatine, who manipulated his emotions and led him to believe that only the dark side could provide the protection he craved. This increasingly dark relationship with the Force alienated him from his true self, contributing to his ultimate downfall. 8. The Conversion to Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker's transformation into Darth Vader was not instantaneous, but a painful and complex process. Each decision he made, driven by fear and ambition, led him further away from the Jedi and the light. When he finally became Darth Vader, Anakin didn't just change his name. He renounced his identity and the values he once held dear. This change wasn't just superficial. It was a complete reconfiguration of who he was. Anakin's new role as Darth Vader was marked by a need for power and control, reflecting the pain of his betrayal. He became an instrument of Palpatine, acting against those he once considered friends and allies. Anakin's conversion wasn't just the loss of a Jedi. It was the tragedy of a hero-turned-villain, perpetuating the cycle of pain and destruction throughout the galaxy. 9. Relationships with other Jedi. Anakin's interactions with other Jedi were complex and often tense. Despite his talent, Anakin struggled to connect with his peers, largely due to his impulsiveness and the pressure to be the chosen one. His relationship with Mace Windu, for example, was fraught with mistrust, as Windu represented the voice of reason, who often questioned Anakin's impulsive actions. This dynamic created a sense of isolation, which Palpatine skillfully exploited. Furthermore, the tension between Anakin and Yoda reflected the young Jedi's inner struggle. Yoda, who had always believed in the importance of detachment, often opposed Anakin's passion. This lack of understanding and support contributed to his estrangement from the Jedi Order, as he became increasingly susceptible to Palpatine's influence. Anakin's estrangement from the other Jedi was a crucial factor in his path to betrayal. 10. Visions of Padme. Anakin's visions of Padme's death were a determining factor in his downfall. These premonitions were not just flashes of the future, but reflections of his deepest fears. Each vision reinforced his belief that he needed more power to protect Padme, leading him to make impulsive decisions that strayed from logic and wisdom. The resulting desperation led him to an increasingly unstable state of mind. These visions, while not definitive, fueled Anakin's paranoia and pushed him toward the dark side. He began to believe that anyone who opposed him was a threat to his beloved. Thus, The quest for power to save Padme became a justification for betraying his principles, causing Anakin to become increasingly blind to the consequences of his actions. 11. Justifying his actions. Anakin Skywalker began to justify his betrayals with the belief that he was acting for the greater good. To him, seeking power on the dark side was a way to ensure the safety of Padme and everyone he loved. This rationalization made him unable to see the moral implications of his choices. Rather than acknowledge his betrayal of the Jedi Order, Anakin convinced himself that his actions were necessary and even noble. This justification was a defense mechanism that prevented him from confronting the pain and guilt of his choices. He saw himself as a savior rather than a traitor, creating a narrative that distorted reality. This dangerous state of mind, fueled by Palpatine's manipulation, led Anakin to commit atrocities in the name of love, solidifying his downfall as one of the saga's most tragic characters. 12. Internal conflict. Anakin Skywalker's internal conflict was a recurring theme throughout the trilogies. As he became increasingly drawn to the dark side, moments of doubt and remorse often surfaced. Anakin was aware of the consequences of his actions, but his struggle between his desire for power and his love for Padme became unbearable. This internal battle consumed him, resulting in a cycle of violence and regret. These conflicts culminated in impulsive decisions that often took him away from his true self. Despite his Jedi training, Palpatine's influence and the fear of losing Padme created an emotional storm that clouded his judgment. This internal struggle, exacerbated by external pressures and his own ambitions, was one of the most tragic factors in his journey, setting the stage for his ultimate betrayal. 13. Consequences of his betrayal. Anakin Skywalker's betrayal had devastating repercussions for the galaxy. His defection to Darth Vader not only resulted in the destruction of the Jedi Order, but also in the collapse of the Republic and the rise of the Galactic Empire. Trust between the Jedi and the people was severely undermined, resulting in a climate of fear and oppression. Anakin, once seen as the Chosen One, was now a symbol of betrayal and desolation. These consequences extended to his family as well. The emotional impact of his choices affected Padme, Obi-Wan, and even his children, who would later become central figures in the fight against the Empire. Anakin's betrayal was not only a personal catastrophe, but an event that altered the course of galactic history, establishing a legacy of pain and struggle that would endure for generations. 14. Relationship with the dark side. Anakin's relationship with the dark side of the Force became a complex and destructive connection. Initially drawn to its promises of power, Anakin began to see the dark side as a solution to his problems. However, this relationship became increasingly toxic, leading him to commit acts that contradicted the Jedi values he once upheld. The quest for strength became a quest for control, and this transformation was gradual but inevitable. As Anakin gave himself over to the dark side, he began to lose not only his humanity, but also his ability to love and feel compassion. The dark side consumed him completely, turning him into a vessel for rage and hatred. This destructive relationship led him into a cycle of pain and destruction, culminating in his betrayal of not only the Jedi Order, but of everything he once held dear. 15. Redemption and legacy. Anakin Skywalker's redemption in Return of the Jedi is one of the most powerful themes in the saga. Even after years of betrayal and acts of cruelty as Darth Vader, the light within him was never completely extinguished. His love for his son, Luke, serves as the catalyst for his ultimate transformation, reminding him of who he truly was. This emotional connection becomes a turning point in the internal battle between the dark side and the light. Anakin's legacy is a mixture of tragedy and hope. His story is a reminder of the potential for redemption, showing that even those who have fallen from grace can find a way back. Anakin's struggle represents the challenges we all face as we try to balance the light and darkness within ourselves. His story continues to resonate with fans, offering valuable lessons about love, sacrifice, and the eternal quest for redemption. And so, we come to the end of our analysis of Anakin Skywalker's betrayal. His story teaches us about the dangers of fear and ambition, and reminds us that redemption is always possible, even in the darkest situations. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. And to not miss any content about the Star Wars universe and other fascinating analyses, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Join us on this journey through the galaxy. And until next time,